Great Crusade, produced by the Radio and Television Apostolate in cooperation with the St. Louis Register, presents Quiz the Catholic, a religious quiz program designed to lead men closer to God through a better understanding of things Catholic.
Hello, friends. This is Lee Cavanagh welcoming you once again to Quiz the Catholic. Now, as you may perhaps know, this is the program, Quiz the Catholic, on which four otherwise normal, safe, and sane Catholic lay people consent to serve on a panel. And as a member of that panel, they have the privilege of trying to identify within 3 minutes the subjects you folks send in. We'll tell you more about how you can send in subjects in a moment. Right now, let's look at the 5 categories into which our subjects fall. They're right over here. Objects, practices, events, personalities, and teachings. Now, as we mentioned, our panel members ask questions for 3 minutes, and those questions must be capable of a yes or a no answer. Without any further ado, now let's meet the members of our panel. First of all, a familiar face on Quiz the Catholic, Mr. Tom O'Toole. He's in the real estate business, and he brought his own routing section to the studio here today. He has little Peggy O'Toole with him, and every word he says, she says, is wonderful. Is that right?
She's my number 1 fan, Lee.
Well, good. And
number 2 is right line at home, Annie.
Okay, we've got them lined up in the studio and at home, and we're going to make the questions especially for you, Tom.
Very good.
Very difficult today. All right? Now we want to welcome a newcomer to Quiz the Catholic here today, Mrs. George Ahlering of Clayton, Missouri, and she's more familiarly known as Elizabeth, and more familiarly than that, known as Liz. Is that right?
That's right, Lee.
Hi, Liz. I want to welcome you to Quiz the Catholic.
I'm happy to be here, I think. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll tell you later.
We're going to find out shortly. We're real
I'll
happy to
tell you
have you on. Huh?
Tom said he'd tell me now.
Okay, fine. Let's move along now to the third member of our panel here, Professor Vic Staudt from out at St. Louis University. He teaches not classical, just English literature out there, right, Vic?
Ordinary English literature, Lee.
Fine. Say something in English literature for us, would you?
I've been in the fog all day, Lee.
Well, Vic, we're going to see what happens here in the next 28 or 29 minutes. And right now, we meet the fourth member of our panel, a member of the legal profession, Mr. Dick Mehan. Dick, happy to see you again.
Happy to see you, Lee.
I understand on good authority that all week long you've been studying the lives of St. Athanasius and St. Ildefonse and St. Hyacinth.
The whole week, sometimes 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning.
And I know it'll make you happy to know that we're not going to treat on any of those saints in the program this week, okay?
That's customary. Thanks.
Okay, let's meet now our very special guest here on Quiz the Catholic today. And we're very privileged to have with us Father Trafford Maher of the Society of Jesus. He's director of the Department of Education at St. Louis University and director of the Human Relations Center. Welcome to Quiz the Catholic, Father.
Thank you, Lee. Nice to be here.
Well, we're glad.
As long as I don't have much to do.
Well, we may put you to work here quite a bit during the...
They look too bright. I have no fears. I'll have to comment on nothing.
Well, let's go right to work on them and find out. That's the best way to do it, Father. This is our first subject of the day, which is sent in by Mrs. Arthur Fisher of 5821 Walsh in St. Louis, and it's a personality.
A cardinal is a prince of the church and is an official counselor and assistant of the Pope in the government of the church. The 4 Americans in the College of Cardinals are Cardinal McIntyre of Los Angeles, Cardinal Spellman of New York, Cardinal Mooney of Detroit, and Cardinal Stritch of Chicago.
And for this personality category, I think our friend Tom O'Toole looks like he is ready.
Okay, Lee. Is this personality living?
Yes.
Yes. Is this more than one person?
Yes. Good question.
Is this, would it be, it is living?
Yes, that's right.
All of them?
Mm-hmm.
Are they men?
Yes.
Are they Catholics?
Yes.
Are they clergy?
Yes.
Oh, let me see now.
You're doing great. I can't even say
I'm trying to
no
get a no, Lee, very hard. Are they American?
Yes.
Would they be bishops or better, shall we say?
Bishops or better. Well, yeah, they're bishops or something.
Are there 5 or are there 5 or less, say, in this group?
Yes, 5 or less. You're staying right.
Would there be a cardinal in the group?
Yes, there would be, Father, wouldn't there?
Would there be the American, or rather the United States Cardinals?
Yes. I think I'm not going to keep you on the
Well,
spot.
there are
any
four
longer.
of them, aren't there?
Hey, you got it. The 4 American Cardinals. Very good. Wasn't that good, Father?
It just astounds me, and I can't get used to it.
Would you tell us a little bit more about that subject that he picked right out like that, Father?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a subject that confuses a lot of people, and I think a happy chap by the name of Sullivan wrote a helpful book called The Externals of the Catholic Church, in which he treats of cardinals. I think the number of cardinals are 70 when we have the full complement, and their function in life, by the way, they are not specials in the sense of a new order, like a priest, bishop. They're just bishops or archbishops who happen to have higher rank, higher places of honor, and their main function is to help in the government of the church. They're created by the Pope, and they can only be deposed by the Pope. So they report only to the Holy Father. And I think it's enough to say that their main function is the government, to help in the government of the church. Theirs is an advisory capacity. And they head up different kinds of congregations, but I don't want to get into that. It's real complicated.
Okay, fine, Father. Thanks very much. We'll go along now with subject number 2. And this one was sent in by Kathy O'Driscoll of 5039 Terry Avenue in St. Louis, and this is a practice.
Every new year gives us a clean slate, an opportunity to be a better person by ridding ourselves of faults and resolving to please God by conforming to his laws.
Well, we'll go way down the other end of the panel. Keep away from O'Toole for a moment. He's too sharp today. And we'll start off with this practice with Mr. Dick Mehan, who looks pretty sharp himself.
I'm glad you cleared that up, Lee. Is this a practice that both clergy and laity engage in?
Oh, I think so, wouldn't you say,
We
Father?
hope so.
Yes.
Does it involve physical action, Lee?
It could. I don't know.
Well, does it involve oral action?
It could.
Is it devotional in its nature?
Devotional?
Yeah.
No, I'm afraid not. Tom?
Lee, does this practice take place normally at any particular time?
Time of what? Of day, of year? Or...
I think I'll try a year, in the way you said that.
That was a good try there. Yes, it does take place at a...
We can locate it calendar-wise. Is that it?
Pretty much so.
Would it take place around, say, Advent or later in the year?
Advent or later in the year. Yes, I guess so.
And this practice involves clergy and laity. Is this the...
Good.
Does it take place at a particular place?
No, I don't think so. So we'll move on to Liz now.
It is in the Christmas cycle, then.
Well,
Between
sort of,
Advent?
kind of, but not exactly.
Uh,
Is that a good answer, Father, or did I mistreat that?
I
Sort of
think
kind
that's all right.
and it takes place in church, we said.
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
It's possible that it would, however.
I think I'm going to pass to Vic.
Okay, Vic, how about you?
Is this an abstinence rather than an action?
Well, no, I don't think so. We'd have to say no to that. And that means rope for general questioning, and Tom O'Toole has a thought.
The thought has just left my mind again after thinking about some of the previous questions.
Lee, does this have something to do with the support of the church or any particular function or organization of the church?
No, not really.
Is this action likely to take place in a home, Lee?
It could very well. 1 minute to go.
Is it something peculiar just to the United States, Lee?
I don't think so, is it, Father? No.
Does it involve a Christmas custom?
A Christmas custom? No, not essentially so.
Can this practice take place on the street, Lee?
It could, yes.
And it doesn't... well, skip that.
This is a rough one. Not too rough, though.
No, I know
On
that.
the street.
Does this practice occur when Catholics meet some object or some other person?
Well, I think we'd have to say no. We got about half a minute to go now.
Is this practice involve a member of the clergy?
Well, I think we pointed out it could.
I mean, when the practice takes place, is there always a member of the clergy present?
No, there's not necessarily so.
Does this involve a sacramental, Lee?
No.
Is it a greeting of any kind?
No, not a greeting. I'm
It takes
afraid
place on a particular day. One particular day.
not one particular day.
Does it
I'm
involve-
afraid our time is up. Nice try there. The subject that Kathy O'Driscoll sent in was making New Year's resolutions. And that means that Kathy O'Driscoll wins one of our statues of Our Lady of Television. Right, Father?
That's right.
this is really the time for making New Year's resolutions.
I was amused at some of the words that were used, practice and custom. I hope that New Year's resolutions are a little more than a custom. As I understand it, a custom is something, if you do it for 40 years, whether or not it eventuates, it's an established pattern of behaving, whether anything comes out of it or not. I think it's kind of exciting, though, this business of New Year's resolutions, even though it's been cartooned a lot, because, we have to do something always to keep the faculty of effort alive. And I think that even some little resolutions that have to do with just gratuitous deeds, might be a good idea just to keep the faculty of effort alive. Practically, I think New Year's resolutions, however framed, should be very simple. These people that are going to do 57 different things, they never do. But if they do one simple little thing, and New Year's, psychologically, new slate time, erase the old board, put up the new calendar, a good time. Psychologically, a sound time to determine to do one simple thing to make me a better person. I think that about does it.
Thanks, Father. That's mighty good advice for all of us. Let's go to work on the folks at home for just a moment here. In this sense, we come to our third subject here on Quiz a Catholic, where we don't show you what the subject is on your screen. You kind of work along and see if you can guess our panel here on this one. This one was sent in by Miss Josephine W. Walsh of 3879A, Wyoming in St. Louis, and it's an event. And let's see, we're going to start right off with you, Liz, if we may.
All right, Lee, first I'd like to say that one of my New Year's resolutions is going to be to go home and bone up on some of these things. Let me see, an event. Is this a specific event?
Yes, uh-huh.
And is it an event which occurred within modern times?
No, I don't think you'd say that. So we'll move along to Vic.
Does this event have any biblical connection, Lee?
Yes, uh-huh.
And is it New Testament?
Yes.
And does it involve Christ in any way directly?
Yes.
And is it connected with any time prior to his public life?
Any time prior to his public life, we'd say no to that, wouldn't we, Father? So we'll move on to Dick Mehan. Nice narrowing down there, Vic.
Is it connected up with Christ's public life then, Lee?
Yes.
Connected up with his passion?
No. Mm-mm. Tom?
Is there a miracle involved with this event, Lee?
Yes.
Were there more than 3 persons present at this event?
Yes.
Were there more than, say, 7?
I would imagine so, wouldn't you say, Father? Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many were present?
Well, not the precise number, but I think we can say with
Multitude.
confidence more than 7.
All righty. Let's see now. Was this a healing of some type?
Not a healing, no. So we're open now for general questioning.
Did this involve changing of physical things such as bread and water or fishes or loaves or anything like that, Lee?
Well, it did involve something physical. Right, Father?
That's right.
Is there a name of any individual connected with it other than Christ himself?
Well, yes, there were some specific names. I don't know whether they would help too much in this connection. I don't think it would mean an awful lot.
Did this occur in the first year of Christ's public life?
First year, Father? Would that be so?
Yeah, I don't think I can answer that either.
That's pretty hard to tie down, isn't it?
Was there a large multitude present? Is that the way you described the number of people present at the time of the miracle?
Not at the precise moment of the miracle, no.
Anyone deceased present?
Beg pardon?
Anyone deceased present at this
Was anyone
occasion?
deceased present? No, not to our knowledge. Tom?
Was this miracle, did it involve something which our Lord himself actually performed as opposed to something which occurred to someone or something else?
Yes, it's something that he actually performed.
Was it his walking on the water?
No.
Was it the...
The fish catch, so to speak?
What was that, Tom?
Was it the when he told them to cast their nets and they pulled in all the fishes?
No.
Is it
Don't pull me
maritime?
along like that, or that isn't it?
Is it maritime at all?
It is somewhat maritime, would
Is
you
it,
say?
Not walking on the water.
Is it the calming of the storm, the tempest?
Yes, that is it, exactly. Very
Bravo.
good. Congratulations. Didn't they do well in that one?
They
Tom?
did very well. The thing that occurred to me was Vic Staudt said was anyone deceased present. And all I could think of is there were a lot of people who were scared to death. It's one, I think, one of the most comforting passages that our Lord has given us is a demonstration of what it means to be near to Him, to have Him in our midst. Because there's no trial or tribulation, I think, that is really threatening as long as Christ is with us, and we know that we are on His side by reason of the fact that we're keeping His law.
Right, Father. Father, I'd like to ask you a few questions here, if I may, because we mentioned at the beginning that you're director of the Department of Education out at St. Louis U and also director of the Human Relations Center. And, well, maybe you'd like to tell our audience here this morning something about this Human Relations Center. I know I have some questions that I'd like answered.
Well, Lee, why don't you ask your questions, because I'd hate to see you unhappy even for a minute.
All right, I'll try not to be unhappy and ask a question, Father. No, seriously, since good human relations are based on the laws of God, how does this Human Relations Center differ from any conventional course in ethics or religion?
That's a good question. It's often asked. Of course, the big guidelines of all human relations are good ethics, the law of God, the law of the land. However, these are patterns which people either follow or they don't follow. Now, if they get to know a little bit more about why they do things and how they do them, the ingredients that go into that, sometimes they can follow the pattern of law, divine, civil, and so forth, a little more effectively, particularly in their dealings with one another. So I would say that the Human Relations Center focuses its attention on those knowledges that we have that help us understand better what makes us work and why we work that way, particularly in our dealings with other people. I don't know whether that helps much.
Yeah, very much so, Father, but could you elaborate a little bit on how the Human Relations Center functions? I mean, in other words, who's there and what happens?
Well, this center has different kinds of jobs. First of all, it has to run a curriculum that leads toward a degree that might put a person somehow or other in the field of personnel work, or the field of teaching, such as curriculum building and that sort of thing. So it has the curriculum that leads to a degree. Then it goes out into the community. For instance, it would go into the business and industry community. It might move into a department store, and it'd bring a staff in and would get together the people involved in a certain operation, and they'd examine the sources of tensions, the ways of recognizing them, the ways of reducing them. Big task, to reduce these tensions, but to recognize them first is big. It also moves into what is becoming a very complicated operation in our society, a hospital with its structure, very complicated structure of interpersonal relations, nurses, doctors, aides, cooks, seamstresses, and they all have to work together. Then it also gets out into the civic community. It works, for instance, with a police department, different neighborhood problems, intergroup problems. They might be racial, they might be interreligious. Getting people to understand what's at stake, how these factors function, and how they can be best used to achieve the goals for which all men are supposed to be living.
Yeah, that's tremendously interesting, Father. Well, tell me this, how could either an individual or a group go about availing themselves of the services and functions of the center?
Well, an individual might just want to be pursuing further knowledge and get into a course. Someone might want to know how he could reshape his job a little bit, so he might get into a training institute where we'd actually have knowledge and demonstration of knowledge. Or, say, a business is tremendously concerned about the fact that it's not using its human resources as well as it might. So it might call in a staff of persons concerned with human relations, set up a little conference situation, and have all the department heads, let us say, present, face up to the issues here. Now, what is at stake? What are the problems? And these things get kind of roughly. You have to hold the lid on the concern with might.
That must be very interesting work and very, very important work, too, Father. Anything that you care to say about any of the future plans of the center, or have you covered it pretty well?
Well, we're going to keep the degree program going. We're going to keep moving into the community wherever we are invited. We have an interesting little side issue here. We'd like to take 50 students each summer to a foreign culture engaged in this particular kind of work. The gimmick here is, if you take somebody out of his own culture into another one, he can look back over his shoulder and understand things at home a little bit better. So that's in our future plans. We're carrying on the Mexican one right now.
Fine. All in an effort to get greater understanding. Well, Father, thanks so much for for helping us to understand the work of the Human Relations Center at St. Louis U a lot better. Right now, suppose we go back to work on our panel, huh?
Yeah, I think I've been resting too long.
Oh, before we do, I'd like to mention to you folks at home once again our sincere invitation to you to send us in subjects in one of the 5 categories we mentioned. You know, the objects, events, personalities, teachings, or practices. And you send the subjects to the station to which you are now listening and watching. And if you have a subject which is used in the program and our panel members do not pick it out or find out what it is within 3 minutes, then you'll receive one of these beautiful statues of Our Lady of Television, the patroness of the Catholic radio and television apostolate. So don't forget to send in your subjects to Quiz a Catholic in care of the station you're watching right now. Well, let's go right to work here and quiz a few Catholics of our own over here on our panel. And our next subject was sent in by Mrs. Charles Klentz, I believe it is, K-L-E-N-C, Route 2 in Florissant, Missouri. And this is a teaching.
This teaching is found in the epistles of St. Paul. It reflects the Christian tradition that the man is the head of the household. The subjection refers to love and respect on the part of the wife and does not imply slavery.
And I might say that this is a very interesting subject. I'm going to start right off here, let's see, with, Liz, suppose we start with you again, huh?
All right, Lee. Is this a teaching which refers specifically to man's relation to God?
No, I don't think so. No, it wouldn't, would it, Father? So we'll move on now to Vic.
Does this involve man's relation to his fellow man, Lee?
Yes.
And does it involve an obligation on my part, for instance?
An obligation on your part? Oh, partially. Yes, we'd say yes, I suppose.
And does that have any biblical foundation,
Yes.
any biblical mention? And
Mhm.
is that biblical mention New Testament rather than Old?
Yes.
And, I pass.
Wrong time. Is this set out in one of the commandments, actually one of the 10 Commandments?
No, not really. Is it, Father? Not even by... No.
Lee, does this have anything to do with any of the sacraments?
Yes.
And is it a sacrament that is received by the adults?
Yes. 2
Would it
minutes
be-
to go.
Would it be the sacrament of matrimony?
Yes, it would.
And this is a teaching concerning that.
Yes.
Would this be the teaching that, what is it? You take your wife and she's subject to him or something like that?
Well, you're so close, you're right, and you're in trouble with your wife right now. You know that, don't you?
I didn't agree to that teaching.
No, it is the subject, wives, be subject to your husbands, right, Father?
That's right.
And Tom was absolutely correct.
St. Paul, was quite articulate on this subject. I don't know just how he got that way, but he was. I suspect it was through divine inspiration. I think this is one of the passages probably that's most misunderstood. First of all, the words that are used, wives, be subject to your husbands. This is a word we're not used to in 1900, the middle of the 20th century, whatever this is, 1956. It means that there shall be that kind of atmosphere in which there is a co-equal approach, that no one shall so throw off the balance, that there shall be a co-equal approach to many problems. In Ephesians you find this. Then it's very well spelled out in Pius XI's encyclical on Christian marriage. But I think that word subject ought to be cleared up a little bit, I see Liz agrees with me.
All right, fine.
Could I delete that word then, subject?
Tom's thinking about when he gets home.
Don't worry.
Might be safer that way. Well, thanks a lot, Father. We're going to move along now in the few moments we have remaining here to another subject, which was sent in by Mrs. Georgiana Bahr, B-A-H-R, Route 1, St. Genevieve, Missouri, and this is a personality.
Saint Helena, the mother of Emperor Constantine, was a convert to Catholicism. Her zealous faith led to the discovery of the true cross on which Christ was crucified.
And for this personality, Dick Mehan, suppose we start off with you.
Lee, is this a specific personality?
Yes.
Personality dead?
Yes.
Catholic?
Yes.
Die before the year 1000?
Yes.
Die before the year 500?
Yes.
Member of the clergy?
No. Nice going, though. Tom?
One person?
Yes.
Man?
No. Liz?
Was he mentioned in the New Testament? Was she?
This
Pardon me.
This person was not mentioned in the New Testament, no.
No.
Vic?
Old Testament?
Nope.
Was this woman a saint?
Yes.
Was she also a ruler of some type?
Yes. Isn't that right, Father?
Oh, I think
Yes.
Can we locate her geographically? Would we probably recognize the place then?
Yeah, I think so.
Was it a Mediterranean country?
Not specifically. But no.
Was she a martyr?
No, she was not.
Was it St. Helena?
Yes, it certainly was. You're absolutely correct. Very
Okay,
good.
thank
Where did
you.
you get that one from?
How he did it, I don't know.
So I could see him narrowing down on it, you know.
Oh, he handled it perfect.
Can you tell us a little bit about
Well, St. Helena, of course, is involved with something that's right at the center of Christianity. She's involved with one of the most significant symbols of the center of Christianity, and of course I refer to the cross of our Lord, the cross on which he died. Now, as far as the best traditions can establish this fact, we have very good certainty that she discovered the true cross of Christ. She was the mother of Constantine, and of course Constantine looms up very large on the historical horizon as one of the first great friends in governmental circles, first great friends of Christianity itself. The De Wool has a wonderful novel depicting this story of Constantine's mother, Helena, seeking and then finding the cross. And I think symbolically, it's kind of the story of every life. You seek, and then you find the cross. And of course, there's no explanation of suffering unless one finally finds that cross and knows what it means.
Right, Father. Fine, I think we have time for one more quickie here if we move along real quick-like on our quickie. Sent in by Mr. Henry Bryan of 5899 Clemens in St. Louis. It's an object, and who wants to start? How about you, Tom?
Object, does it exist today, Lee?
Yes.
Can I hold it in my hand?
No.
Specific object?
No.
Connected with a person?
No.
Made of wood?
Could be.
Is it always manufactured, Lee?
Yes.
Connected with the clergy, excuse me, Dick.
Yes.
Is it blessed?
Yes.
Used primarily in church?
Yes.
In the Mass?
Partially.
Is it primarily made of metal then, Lee?
Could be at times, couldn't it, Father?
Would the priest use it other than at the Mass?
Yes.
Is there any writing on it?
Could be.
Is it usually found on the altar itself?
No.
Is it found on the altar side of the communion rail?
Yes.
Did we say it was metallic?
It could be. About 10 seconds to go for you.
Does the priest come in contact with this?
Yes, one more question.
Is it the sedalia, the chair on the side?
No, I'm sorry, it was the pulpit. And Mr. Bryan gets the statue of Our Lady of Television. We just about have time enough to say most sincerely to you, Father Trafford Maher of St. Louis U, thanks so much for being with us here in Quiz of Catholic this morning. We enjoyed having you.
Thank you, Lee.
And to our sterling panel members over here, thanks to you for a grand job, Tom O'Toole,
Okay.
Liz Ahlering, Vic Staudt, Dick Mehan. Congratulations to all of you. And don't forget, you folks, if you want to take part, just send a letter to Quiz of Catholic, care of the station you're watching now. This is Lee Cavanagh thanking you for watching.
The Great Crusade has presented Quiz a Catholic, produced by the Catholic Radio and Television Apostolate of St. Louis. The Great Crusade is brought to you each Sunday through the cooperation of the St. Louis Register and station KWK-TV. Production staff for The Great Crusade includes Father Francis J. Matthews, Catherine Walsh, and Jim Hennessy. Join us next week when The Great Crusade will again present Quiz a Catholic.